Hello, heathens. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, please sit in the front so that we can judge you accordingly. If you have been here for a while, welcome back. Today we are going to have a conversation about perfection, specifically chasing perfection as it relates to creative pursuits. This topic was suggested by one of you, my beloved nasties. A special thank you goes out to Hoop of Spiders for being the impetus for this topic. If you are familiar with my content and style of creating art, you have heard my mention many times in passing that usually when I create an illustration, there is an ugly phase where I am not entirely warmed up to what I am producing, and that is simply because of the layering techniques that I employ. When I am working on one of my illustrations, I come to a crossroads where I can either continue forward or I can give up entirely and move on to something else. Now, the reason that I can keep going is because I know myself, my style, and my mode of working. So typically, this crossroads is not an issue for very long because I more or less have an idea of what the outcome is going to be stylistically. Now, that is not to say that just because I have a decent idea of what my style is like, that every illustration is going to be a success. Not at all. This isn't the case all the time, and especially when I am trying something experimental. The key is to follow through said experiment regardless of the result. So why do I say this? I mean, what benefit is there in pushing through what you perceive to be a failure, especially early on in the process of creating whatever it is that you're working on? Well, I mean, if you've already destroyed a piece, you may as well continue playing with your supplies on a piece that is no longer clinging to any expectations, right? Having no expectations can lead you to this weird magical place where unexpected accidental discoveries happen at every turn. That elusive, happy accident creature that we all love to stumble across. You may discover an interesting technique, a new supply, perhaps a color that you hadn't used before. Such a discovery would probably not have occurred if you were following your own parameters of creativity by giving up when you run into a problem. Solving a problem is more beneficial to your growth as an artist than running away from it. If you can't draw eyes, you shouldn't resolve yourself to drawing people with sunglasses or eye patches for the rest of your life. You'll stagnate. You'll get bored. You have to try new things. To sum this idea up with a food metaphor, because I'm starving at the moment. I mean, when am I not? But I'm especially stomach grumbly right now. So how do you know which ice cream flavors you enjoy if you don't try them? Extend this notion to those fancy gourmet ice cream flavors that sound atrocious on paper but are actually quite delightful. Now, maybe this is because I'm an adventurous eater, but goat cheese ice cream, anyone? Cilantro ice cream, anyone? It sounds terrible, but such weirdness also happens to be delicious in some cases. I've had some ice cream flavors that were a little questionable, but I like to have fun. I like to try new things, and even if it sounds terrible, try anything once. Try it twice if you didn't like it the first time. Try it a third time just so that you can solidify an opinion. That's how I live my life, not just creatively, but in all aspects of my life. A drag queen. Take a drag queen, for instance, just to give you another example from my little world. A drag queen would never stop at her lipstick and lashes, would she? Of course not. There are 80 gallons of eyeliner, 10 buckets of glitter, and 75 wigs to play with. Why would you stop at what's comfortable and what's easy? No, try a new look, try something new, try something outrageous. Even if it doesn't work out, at least you tried it. Try a new experience, a new flavor, a new color, a new technique, even if it makes you gag. At least you were adventurous and did the thing. If timidity is your thing, great. Design for Hallmark and you'll be just fine. This pep talk, however, is for the curious and for the adventurous. There are going to be situations in which a piece simply is not salvageable, and that's okay. So long as you learn a lesson in the process of creating said disaster, then as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't a failure. That is the mindset that I'm hoping you pick up from all of this blah 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 today. A sticky 5-year-old child does not care about the quality of their art. They care about the process of creating art. Art is subjective. Childhood fancies are also subjective. Objectivism, like other nasty things, are taught. What happens if a kid draws a pink sky or purple grass? They are told it is incorrect. The kid subsequently feels bad and never draws purple grass or pink skies again. The thing is, the child knows that grass is green, but the little nugget wanted to have fun creating the purple grass. Adults are the ones who come in and make everything feel like a chore because they insist on doing things the quote-unquote correct way. Adults thrive on pretending to be superior, and some even make a career out of it. So even though I hate it, I don't fault everyone for doing it. What I do fault are the people who immediately fall into place when these supposed authorities try to assert their authority on other people. You can listen, you can appreciate, but you don't have to follow what they say. Don't believe me? Ask a sommelier, a movie critic, or a food critic, or the head of a marketing department. They all think they have a one-up on everyone else just because they have this weird idea that they're superior to everyone else. I'm not to say that they are not great at what they do, because they are, but someone telling someone that a slice of pizza is disgusting because of A, B, and C just doesn't sit well with me. People like what they like. An opinion is an opinion, and that's that. It's not gospel. To take it one step further, ask any moron with a loud mouth on Yelp. Again, opinions. Opinions are not facts, and you shouldn't treat them as such. By the way, don't ever trust anyone on Yelp. I hate Yelp. I take everyone's opinion on Yelp with less than a grain of salt, positive or negative. I just, I do what I want, and you should do the same. Don't dwell on the opinions of others. I would venture to guess that the reason that you perceive your work to be a failure is because you have spent time ruminating over the work of others who you yourself admire, or perhaps the work of others that the public has placed on a pedestal. Whether that pedestal is warranted or not is up for debate. I chalk it all up to being just an opinion. The only area of art that I think warrants an incessantly obsessive pursuit of perfectionism is photorealism. And that's because by its very nature, photorealistic artwork is supposed to replicate the objective. That's the whole entire purpose of photorealism. It simply is not my cup of tea. Classicism, same thing, is not photorealistic, but it is the pursuit of an idealized perfection. Again, it is very beautiful to look at, but if you drop me into a museum full of classical art pieces, I'm going to get bored, and bored rather quickly, because if presented with the choice, I would much prefer to own anything by Basquiat rather than something by Botticelli. Perfectionism, classicism, idealism, all of that is cool and it's beautiful and it's textbook perfection, but it's boring. It's boring to me. That is why I am not a big fan of Disney or anime. There's just a certain set of convention that goes into creating those cartoons. Before any Disney or anime aficionados come at me with pitchforks, first of all, know that I freshly sharpened my nails last night, so come at me. Second, I would just like you for one moment to think about it for a second. When you look at, say, a cartoon by Disney or something that's anime, if you see someone who's trying to purposely emulate that style, but they fall short of the parameters, it becomes completely obvious what they were trying to do, and then their quote-unquote failure becomes very obvious, correct? The reason, again, that it's obvious is because they are failing at following conventions. Do you see what I'm saying here? Are you catching my drift? This is why I personally don't see the appeal of forcing oneself to create within the conventions of a particular style. Now, if it's something that you are dead set on and that you are passionate about, great, have at it, do your thing. But for the rest of us who are not trying to do that, I am encouraging you guys to be gentler on yourselves and to think about why it is that you're following these rules. Are you following these rules because you are trying to create something within that box? Or are you simply trying to develop your own style and then somehow finding yourself falling into the pitfalls of following someone else's style? It's a gray area, but you have to figure out who you are as an artist so that you know what path to take. If you are wanting to take the path of convention and perfection, classicism, whatever it is, then by all means, dive into it and do your best to follow those parameters. But if you are trying to develop your own style, then you have to throw away all of that convention. You have to throw it in the trash, and you can't judge what you are doing on someone else's parameters. You have to set your own and work within them. Now, just to toss the Disney lovers a bone, I'm going to give you an example here. Take the work of Eyvind Earle. He was the artist who was behind Sleeping Beauty. Now look at Sleeping Beauty and then compare that to something like Frozen, for instance. Me, personally, I love the work of Eyvind Earle. He's amazing. He has his style that is just so unique, and he created his own conventions of working, which were so unique to Disney. Look at Hercules and The Lion King, both beautifully animated film, but then drop them next to Sleeping Beauty. They look worlds apart, right? Eyvind Earle is a weirdo. He's an anomaly in the world of Disney. And that's probably why Disney does not work in that style anymore, and they tend to take a more conventional approach, a la Frozen, a la Tangled, The Lion King. So both are beautiful, both are worth their weight in gold, but just there's something so much more interesting about Sleeping Beauty than, say, The Lion King in terms of visuals. Look at Tim Burton. Everything Tim Burton touches is very unique. But the more you look at Tim Burton, you think, oh, he has a very structured, very conventional way of doing things in his world. But in comparison to Disney, his work stands out a lot because it's so much more unique. Tim Burton was fired by Disney, fun factoid for you, but they hired him back later when they realized that they could make a buck off of him, and good on him, he made his fortune through Disney. The Nightmare Before Christmas will forever be one of the coolest pieces of animation I've ever seen in my life. Sleeping Beauty and The Nightmare Before Christmas, give them to me all day long. The rest of Disney, take it or leave it as far as I'm concerned. Just for the sake of me tossing in another argument that is pro-convention, just to avoid any contention with anybody, with any of the Karens out there, yes, technical perfection is great in terms of technical illustration and architectural illustration, okay? But let's not get into that. That's not what we're talking about. I'm not trying to vilify technical perfection at all, okay? Moving on. So how is the watercolor illustration that you see in the video relevant to the topic at hand? The piece that you see is the cover art for issue number 1 of my very first comic, The Harlequin Glass. The comic has been on my mind for years. I actually have drawn the book 2.5 times, as in completely redrew the thing 2.5 times. All 30 plus pages of 11 by 17 paper. So why did I do that? Why did I put myself through the torture of repenciling, re-inking 30 some odd pages of huge paper? Why? Because as someone who loves indie alternative comics and who has been reading them since I was a kid, I had it in my head that this book needed to look a certain way from beginning to end. I was never able to meet my own ridiculous expectations. I wanted to be great at drawing everything, and frankly, that just isn't realistic. Not in any stretch. Then I began jumping into forums and watching YouTube videos by other indie comic creators, and I began to notice a few disturbing trends that wove through most of these people. It wove the entire community together, and one of these disturbing trends was that very few of these people ever got their projects off the drawing table because they themselves set lofty goals. They had very unrealistic expectations of themselves, and they would lose themselves in pits of worrying far too much about the perception of other people. They languish, they become bitter, they spend their time lumbering through comic conventions, talking down about the quality of other people's work while they still can't seem to be able to get their own projects off the ground. They come home, they work, they become bitter because they can't get anything right, they can't get their projects off the ground, and then they gripe about how other people's work is subpar and etc., etc. The light in my head clicked. I did not want to fall into this trap. Was I ready to get my book off the ground? The beauty of independent comics is similar to zines, and that is there are no rules. So why was I torturing myself in pursuit of this elusive perfection? I threw it away. I threw that mindset immediately in the trash, and I decided to dive in and just do the thing. And that's what I did. And here we are. At this moment, I have written a few scripts. I have outlined several issues, and I've even completely illustrated issue number 2, where issue number 1 took 8 decades and several redraws. Issue 2 was completed in 2 months. Why? Because I stopped chasing this stupid idea of perfection. The truth is, as creatives, we will never ever stop learning and improving. So waiting until we are quote unquote good enough is folly, because by this logic, we will never reach quote unquote good enough. We'll never reach it because we are always learning. It's difficult to change your mindset. I understand. For me, I was able to do it immediately. For others, it's a gradual change. But you have to look at it this way. You are good enough for today. And being good enough for today will put you in a position to improve tomorrow. It's a pattern of growth, a steady pattern of growth that you should be constantly aiming for. You will improve day by day. And that is going to do it for today, my nasties. I hope that you are all doing as well as can be as we all try to keep our heads above the grime that is the cesspit of 2020. I hope that this video served as a kick in the pants that you need to stop worrying so damn much about what you are doing. If you are enjoying yourself and putting the effort into improving, you are already doing far more than most. Believe me when I say that. Believe me. With that, I leave you. Be bad, be good, I don't give a damn which. Just make it back here in one piece. So go make something. Everything you need to know will be down below, including links to the supplies, links to where you can grab a copy of this book, where you can read it online if you are so inclined. See my website. Take a look down below. Everything you need to know will be down below. Again, thank you so much for being here. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your hang-ups are. And I will see you in the next one.